I want to know about all three of your relationships with John Carpenter and when you guys first met him, and also, Sandy, how you got involved working with the film as well.
Well, I met John Carpenter at the interview for the job, which was taking place in one of the houses while they were filming other scenes. So that was my introduction. And then of course I was hired as Judith, and I came back and worked with him all day. And that was pretty much my relationship with him until I saw him again, I believe, at the premiere of 2018 at the cast party. So that was my time with John. Well, wait, there was one other, I forgot. I did a panel with him 2 years ago, I think, at Steel City Con, and it was just John and I. And I was a little bit intimidated, you could say. I just thought, oh my gosh, it's just the two of us. But actually, he was amazing. He was so good to me and didn't make me feel awkward, so it's all good.
So pretty soon I'm harmonizing on vocals, all in amongst all these girls. And thought, yeah, this is good. This is good. Anyway, we became close friends, formed a folk trio, then formed a rock and roll band. John knew all along he wanted to be a film director. I kind of helped him pick out USC Cinema as the place to go. And after my stint in art school, I joined him out there. I met Mr. Castle, also an alum of USC Cinema. And basically all of us, one way or another, got involved with John's early pictures. Helping out the way you do when you're doing student films, and it's all out of the back of your car and scotch tape and chewing gum. And we went from there.
So the band that you mentioned, was that the Coupe de Villes with our friend?
That came later. The first band was John, me, and John's girlfriend, Elizabeth. We were Tomorrow's Children. And then came Kaleidoscope, which introduced, if you had a rock and roll cover band in that part of the country, you had to do soul music. Rhythm and blues, Motown, Stax, all the records that everybody danced to. But we were getting turned on to Jefferson Airplane and Jimi Hendrix and so forth. And so I guess we introduced psychedelia to Southern Kentucky. That was Kaleidoscope. And then somewhere after USC got going, John became popular with the other student filmmakers because he knew how to compose music. So he was getting gigs, you might say. That's where I met Nick. We were both helping out on these projects, soundtrack projects for student films. And the three of us found that we enjoyed vocal harmony together. And so our famous group, famous because we wound up for, I think, 3 days in rotation on MTV with Big Trouble in Little China, which was the highlight of anybody's career, I'd say. Once in a while, we would get together and sing, and mostly for our own amusement, or for friends at parties. And we haven't gotten together in quite a while, but the legend lives on.
Maybe this weekend we can have some harmonies going on?
Who knows?
Yeah, one of the fans came up to me and said, why isn't there a Coupe de Ville photo op? And like you and John and Tommy, and I said, why don't we organize that? And I said, well, organize it.
Go do that.
I think 4 or 5 people might show.
Yeah, I think
You don't know. So if you don't know, Coupe de Villes was the band that, as Tommy was saying, that we had a kind of vanity band that we did in the 80s, I believe.
We were not running around getting gigs and playing dances and stuff. We were just having fun.
But we did the title song for Big Trouble in Little China, which was a lot of fun. And we also, John at one point said, we're going to do an album. And I said, what do you mean we're doing it? And he just staked the Coupe de Villes to this album, you know, vinyl, blister pack, got the photo session and everything to do the cover. And it exists today, you know, as a vinyl thing that I think John has in storage, and it has threatened to put it out on the market. But we'll see.
As I could hear them creaking up those stairs towards me. Yes, that house was very old, and I could definitely kind of hear them coming up there, and I just kept thinking, oh my God, they're coming to kill me. I've always done comedy, and this is so different. So, yeah, it was scary for sure. So that was kind of, you know, different. And yes, when I found out that I had fans all over the world, when my agent found me, I really thought he was joking. I thought the whole phone call from him was a joke. I just thought he was some weird guy that, like, I was playing words with friends with my best friend. I'm telling her, there's some weird guy, like, just texted me and asked if I was Sandy Johnson from Halloween, and I'm going like, you know, who does this in the middle of the night? And it turns out, actually, he wasn't joking, and Rick Enriquez, my agent, and I was totally amazed. He's been an amazing agent. I've been all over the world because of him and because of the franchise. So I'm very happy to be Michael's first kill.
What's commonly now called the Steadicam, with Ray Stella operating, and right next to Ray, with a light mounted on the camera, was Dean Cundy, the director of photography. He had the light on a dimmer, depending on whether he might be close to you, turn it up a bit or turn it back down when you get too close to something else. That's the first two people around the camera. Then there was Deborah Hill in a clown costume, because she was young Michael's hand reaching into the drawer. This was all done in one long shot, you see. I was there, you may not recall, but my job on that particular shot, I had a bucket of fake blood, and every time we came up to you, it was, boom, boom, blood all over Sandy, you know, like that. And people jumping in and out of windows to relight, because we were going to retrace our steps through the house, you see, and the lighting needed to change when we came back downstairs. It was a very intricate shot. It took us all day to set it up. And, but I remember, it seems like I kept getting the blood in your eyes or something like that. We had to clean you up after. I think we did 4 full takes. And in fact, the shot is not one continuous take. We used the best from 3 different takes. Found a little spot to cut it together so it seems like it's one long shot. And so I just went down to Hollywood Boulevard. It was a big, actually it's still there, the Novelties Company on Hollywood Boulevard. And they had probably a dozen, you know, full head pullover masks. But most were really cartoonish. It was like Richard Nixon, John Wayne, and they just looked ridiculous. It was not going to work. Way off at the end was Mr. Spock, and then just past Mr. Spock was this blank face. Looked, and of course it was supposed to be Captain Kirk. Didn't look really like Captain Kirk or William Shatner, but it looked like it might work. And so I grabbed that, and I grabbed a clown mask as well, because I thought we need a choice. We need an alternate in case this lays an egg. We need to be able to, you know, fake it. And took them home. Didn't do anything with the clown mask, but I modified the Captain Kirk mask, made bigger eye holes because it was hard to see out of, for one thing. But also John had admonished me that we had better do something to it in case, who knows, the Captain Kirk mask people might come after us, you know. So I started fooling around with it, pulled the sideburns off, and made the hair dark instead of, it was sort of blondish. And finally painted the whole thing refrigerator white. It was Krylon appliance white. And I thought, gee, this is getting weird. It's looking pretty strange. Might work. So went in the next morning to the production office, tried out the clown mask first. It might have been Barry Bernardi who was modeling. It wasn't you. I keep thinking it was you, because Nick, of course, became the shape. But at that time, it was a production assistant or somebody who modeled them for us. They came out with a clown mask, and it was like, ew, that's kind of weird, that's a little scary. And of course, scary clowns became a thing eventually. So it felt good to have one in your pocket to say, okay, if the other thing doesn't work, we got one. But then the guy came out wearing the shape mask, and we just went, oh fuck. That is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And to this day, I don't know what that is. It was lightning in a bottle. It was instantly, we knew no matter what else, before we had music, before we had actors, before we had the script, we knew that if we took a picture of that thing, that we'd have a scary movie. And it turned out to be the case. And of course, Nick flawlessly did the lurking and walking and standing and all that was required of the shape. And I stuck my head in the mask once in a while for, you can come over to my table and read the story of when I did the shape versus when Nick did it. But that's the story.
It just seemed like the perfect combination for me. So anything I came up with was very instinctual, and it certainly wasn't, from any acting talent, other than, seeing horror movies when I was young and thinking, this is what you have to do. So again, it's disappointing, I think, for fans to hear how offhanded it was, but it certainly was for me. The poor guys that in the future had to do Halloween for 2, 3, everything. They had the most problem because the first one worked so well. How do we get that magic? And of course, some of them asked me. And I said, just walk. And that was John's direction. At one point, when I realized that we were going to see him full figure, and I said, I'm walking across the street at night, and I said, what do you want out of this, John? Is he mechanical? And John was just so exasperated by the rest of the night's work. So, it's a difficult job to do, especially on that kind of budget and time. He just looked at me and said, Nick, just walk, come on. He didn't want to have any other problems that night.
Well, before we gloss over your talent too quickly, I'd like to point out that Nick's father was a famous choreographer, knew his way around dancing, and I think somehow he imbued you with a certain kind of gracefulness that is in your bones, because the way the shape moves is poetic, is truly scary, and it's not overdone. Does everybody notice that as the Halloween franchise goes on, there's like shape inflation? The guy gets bigger and taller and bigger and taller. It just goes on and on. We're ordinary sized guys, and it worked fine on film. But I think in subsequent pictures, the director or whoever was thinking about it, it's got to be, got to be bigger than life. But sort of just walk over there, stand there, and be menacing.
I don't know if it makes it even creepier for me now, knowing that it was just instinctual for you and you didn't have to act, but thank you for that. That's brilliant. So we're going to take some questions from you guys.
By the time I got there, they were already in production for a couple of weeks. James kind of just came up with his own approach to the thing. He's told me since then that he watched the first one just to kind of get a feel for what I was doing, so it wouldn't be too far afoot. But you know, he's a bigger guy. He's like 6'3", I think. Again, it's this inflation. So no, you know, maybe somewhat inspired by the look of the first one, but there was no discussion between the two of us on how to play it. I think he had, yeah, and I think he had more of a conversation with the director on any one or specific scene or not, how to approach it. By the way, I think he does a wonderful job, and he's become a dear friend as well. So it's the perks of being part of this franchise. You meet new and wonderful people, and talented people. Thank you. Thank you.
Jose Menendez was his name. Was shotgunned to death along with his wife by their sons, Eric and Lyle Menendez. And in addition to ending the lives of these two people, they ended the life of my movie because the distribution got completely screwed up behind this murder. And it never has gotten really properly released. I do have good news, I think. A rumor is that the 4K version of Fright Night Part 2 is going to come out this winter from England, which would be nice because that movie, whether you like it or don't like it, is a beautiful film. It's well photographed by Mark Irwin and artfully art directed by Dean Cheddar, and just a pleasure to look at in its full widescreen version. So my fingers are crossed that at last it'll get some sort of proper release. As for the Menendez brothers, I don't know. After all this time, maybe that all that money that they thought they were going to see, they killed their parents, but they made it. They thought they were fooling everybody into it being terrorists or something, so they were going to get all this money. But yeah, maybe they can refinance the release just to set things right.
You know, the Menendez brothers just got a new. If it's a new trial, or,
Yeah,
they're back in the news.
Yeah.
And there may be some validity to it as far as, you know, why the charges should have been manslaughter instead of first-degree murder.
There was a sordid backstory about child molestation and whatnot that may come out in the subsequent trial.
Either the brother of Lori or not the brother of Lori. So I like the not the brother of Lori angle, and so I kind of go with that timeline. And then the other timeline, of course, is the reimagining of Halloween by Rob Zombie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't want to be too flippant about this, but I lost interest after the first three. I can't keep up. I didn't watch any of the other movies except H2O. And it's so, I'm astonished at the enduring interest. I will say this, of what I know about the origins of it. John based his original story with Deborah on the notion that for this movie, for 2 hours, or 90 minutes really, a little bit under 90 minutes, this child, this young man, is pure evil. There is no Rob Zombie explanation of why he got this way, his tortured childhood stuff. You can unravel all the psychology. John was the opposite of that way of thinking. That there's evil exists, and he's coming after you, and he was always there even when he was a little kid, and he up and kills his sister for no good goddamn reason. That's a timeline I'm kind of a fan of. It's like, wait, that's scary, because that gets you back to primal notions of good and evil. It doesn't rely on explanations of psychology. That's pretty surefire simplicity too, and John is nothing if not a thinker in terms of simplicity. In the cutting room on Halloween, and well, I was in the cutting room on Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, and then The Fog. And John's religion all along has been keep it simple, keep it simple. And I think there's some good magic in that. There obviously, the story of Michael Myers went on and on. And before he died, I had a conversation with Mustafa Akkad, who was the money behind Halloween. And I said, aren't you getting sick and tired of this? And he said, Michael Myers will never die. As long as there's money in it. But no, I think it was always a great idea. There must be a million stories you could tell about Halloween. And I hadn't heard that there was a possibility of some sort of series. But if it's truly an anthology and you've got a new tale, a new Halloween tale every time you turn on the program, that sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other takes?
Well, I'm sure, I'm almost 100% sure that if they do a Halloween TV show, it will be a Michael Myers Halloween show. It's they're banking on what brings in the audience, and the audience for them especially, and for many of you, I'm sure, is Michael Myers, and they'll figure out a way to monetize old Michael. Now, how they do it, that's really the question. Are they going to do it with some respect for the original, or is it just to elongate the character's experience? I mean, I think I'd love to see it. I don't know. I have no idea how they would approach it in that regard. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be Michael Myers.
If I had a chance, yes, I would love to be in the series. And if they could figure out a way to get a little bit of Season of the Witch in there, I would love that, because I actually love that film. It's one of my favorites.
Great questions. So we have a few minutes left, and then we're going to take a big group picture. But since this is the best time of the year, with Halloween approaching, I was just wondering if the three of y'all have any Halloween traditions.
Get as invisible as possible. People have embraced that. Well, it's not really a holiday, is it? It's just, what do you call Halloween? Is it a holiday? No, not officially. It's certainly not you don't get to take off from work.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe there's a national movement that should take place that says this needs to be a national holiday.
Start it today.
But people are they love to celebrate. And Alan Howarth, who did the music with John on, I don't think he was on Halloween, but he came along shortly thereafter. It certainly did on Halloween 3. Every year at Halloween, I mean, it got to be insane. It's like people have to top themselves. Okay, last year we got the giant skeleton that's on top of the house, but this year we need some sort of inflatable thing. They go, in the graveyard out front, honey, go get the tombstone. And it's unbelievable. I feel as though I just stand back and don't try. Because it's just so beyond me.
Same thing, any traditions?
The traditions I had as a kid were my favorite. I don't think I could replace them with anything, but all my sisters used to take me trick-or-treating, and they made my costume from scratch every year. So that to me are the great memories of Halloween. And my only regret is I don't see that as much today. It's just, you know, trick-or-treating out of the trunks and stuff. Not really going door to door to your neighbors and having your big sisters or brothers take you out. So to me that was a tradition that I can no longer have, but I have it in my memories and it's very special.
Anything to add? No, that's good.
You know, you used to accommodate the holiday by being ready for kids at the door, but somehow my neighborhood dried up of young people, or maybe I killed them all. I'm not sure.
I think that's what it was.
And so unfortunately, you know, the actual event itself it goes nowhere at my house, and it's just like we have the light out, we have a few candies and cakes, but we haven't had a doorbell ring in about 3 or 4 years. It's kind of sad, but you know, you drive around Los Angeles where I live, and in some of the other neighborhoods, it's just all the deck with so much fun. So it's still a great holiday, and I know some of the folks that worked on Halloween, the new ones, they're big on, like the guy that did the mask, Chris Nelson, you may know his name. His whole house is done. And our manager, Sean Clark, who is the agent for a lot of the people that you'll meet, he has his house all crazy. So it depends on the individual.
We got, everybody here knows about Peanuts, right? And Charlie Brown, and Lucy holds the football, and every year he goes to kick the football, and she takes it away. I feel that way about the candy. Every year we get this big pile of candy, and about 7 people come by, like, you know, like your place, and then there's all this candy, and it's like, I just don't have the self-control. So for November, it's like, that's kind of Halloween to me.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate or start the celebration than with you guys. Thank you so much for being here this weekend. Thank you guys so much for coming to the panel. And if it's okay with y'all,